of the system, which is, of course, Tropical Storm Diana. Movement here is southwestward, the showers at about 30 miles per hour. We're also watching some activity intensify now in the metropolitan Orlando area.
It strengthened, it took on tropical characteristics, and it became our fourth tropical storm of the season, Tropical Storm Diana.
Formed at about 3 o'clock this afternoon officially when an Air Force reconnaissance plane noted that this low-pressure area here north of the Bahamas had intensified. Current position 28.5 north, 78 degrees west for those of you who plot them on your charts. Maximum sustained wind 45 knots right now. The seas are running at over 15 feet in the immediate area of the storm itself. The forecast movement is west-northwest at about 7 knots, rolling in a counterclockwise direction around the low center, which, as I just said, is actually out here over the clearer water where the blue is. There's not an awful lot of rain coming down with this system, considering it is a tropical storm, all the way from the Kennedy Space Center all the way along the east coast of the U.S. up to the Virginia Beach.
Daytona Beach, and the tropical storm has now taken that northerly turn that the Hurricane Center expected. Tropical Storm Diane looks like. I'm trying to think of the other one, which is Hurricane Marie, and I'll talk about that in a minute. This is Diane. Got some heavy thunderstorms here in the spiral bands rotating around Diane. It has now taken the more northerly track that the Hurricane Center expected it would. It's moving to the north-northwest at 8 miles per hour, and should it make landfall, it wouldn't be until later this afternoon. That would be for northeastern Florida. Again, moving towards the north, is packing winds of about 60 miles per hour. There could be some pretty bad flooding for Florida and coastal sections of Georgia with up to 5 inches of heavy rain and gale force winds.
Diana was in the threshold of hurricane force. What do you say? Do we have a hurricane on our hands yet?
Well, it's marginal.
Go through the day today. 6 o'clock this morning. Here's the big massive thunderstorms. Look at it come ashore in North Florida and swirl around the storm. And the heaviest rain now looks to be a little bit southeast of the storm, but still good rains going up and down the coast here. And this is where the strong wind area is, right up in here, pushing in the Georgia coast and the South Carolina coast. And as the storm moves to the north, that's where the big problems are going to be, because that's where the heavy wind is. Why is that? Well, because the wind goes this way, so it's onshore. It's pushing all that water in against the coast up there. Down here, it's pushing the water off the coast. Now, that keeps the waves up, but that does not cause a lot of beach erosion. It's the onshore stuff that's a problem.
With the system starting to cross into South Carolina, here's the way it looks right along the southeast Georgia coast and right back into Jacksonville. Now we'll take you a little further south to the National Weather Service radar site from Daytona Beach. Here's the center of the storm itself, a very well-defined counterclockwise flow. Again, the center remains stationary at those coordinates I gave you, 29.7 north, 80.6 west. Now we'll take a look at it.
Falling this morning, near the center of the storm, thunderstorm tops as high as 48,000 feet. We have a close-up view of Diana, and we'll take a look at the Daytona Beach, Florida radar. We can see the curved lines, showers and thunderstorms circling around the storm system center just to the east of Jacksonville. Most of the heavy rain, however, is still mostly off.
Today from St. Augustine, Florida.
Of Jacksonville, Florida, 105 miles south-southeast of Savannah, Georgia. Look how it's spinning around. The bigger thunderstorms are now wrapping themselves around the middle part of the storm. That's a sign of intensification, and the Hurricane Center is advising us it could strengthen even more throughout today. Big thunderstorms sweeping along the coastline. That's one problem, and we'll show you where that's going to move in just a minute. We also want to look at another problem.
We tend to forget that in mid-September this kind of thing can take place. You know, we follow 100 weather disturbances a year, and when you get to the middle of September, you watch them very carefully because strengthening can be quite rapid.
On Diana, she is moving very slowly to the north at only 5 miles an hour. Her peak winds are 80 miles per hour. Hurricanes are fickle. We have, like most girls, we have no idea where she's going to go, but we're going to keep a good, steady eye on Diana. Now, the Jacksonville radar shows some very heavy rain already up and down the coast. There are hurricane warnings from Brunswick, Georgia, to Oregon Cove, North Carolina. But anyway, there's the latest Jacksonville radar. None of this is affecting us, but the hurricane is the big weather story, so we thought we'd lead with it.
Status a little earlier this morning now with maximum winds up to 80 miles per hour. No concern to South Florida whatsoever at the present time. We're going to have beautiful weather for the next several days. But along all of these islands, right along the Georgia coast and along the Carolina coast, it's a problem because look at that location. Sort of just wedged in almost with part of the cloud cover over parts of South Georgia and extreme North Florida at the present time. As of noon to right now, we'll step backwards now to tell you the movement on Hurricane Diana at 5 o'clock, moving slower, and then at 10 o'clock.
o'clock. You can see it's become a little bit smaller, seems to have grown a little smaller, but still, as it does, it's more compact. It's got 95-mile-per-hour winds now, and it's continuing to move toward the northeast along the coastline. Here's basically the center.
Right in the eye at 95 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the Charleston National Weather Service radar site. Excuse me. This will show you the eye and the precipitation band extending outward from the eye. Once again, the track is northeastward at 5 miles per hour.
That has really given us a lot of concern, because at the same time that the hurricane is continuing to strengthen.
Now, taking 11 o'clock tonight clearly shows the eye in the center of the storm. The maximum winds are surrounding the eye. Here's where we have the hurricane force winds, and actually most of the gale force winds are still offshore. So at the moment, this storm is relatively tame as viewed from the coastline. However, a movement this way or that way, especially toward the coast, would definitely increase the threat toward the coastline, and that is possible tonight.
On the inside, the Hurricane Center's riders on the storm took a reconnaissance plane into the eye of Diana today, feeding crucial information about the storm back to Miami. One of the crew told us Diana's nothing special.
It's like riding in a commercial airliner on a bad flight, but not anything any more dramatic than that. This was a weak hurricane, and the strong ones are a lot prettier. This was just kind of cloudy and rainy.
So we're going to start from 9 this morning, go through every hour. You can almost see from time to time the eyes start to develop. You can definitely see the big counterclockwise rotation, the spiral bands, the clouds coming off the system. Now, just about at 4 this afternoon, look like a little eye was starting to start, but there it goes. All right, 6 o'clock, watch how that develops. What a beautiful system now. It's all over water, so there's very little friction. You can see it developing. What a nice eye, and it's just beginning to move a little bit to the north, but very, very slowly. There's the latest photograph that anybody has in the whole country at midnight tonight, and the path of Diana since Saturday started just off the coast, and I really smoothed this thing out. It jumps back and forth, but in general, it's kind of doing this thing, so it's paralleling the coast, and if that trend continues, it's fortunate, but as we said, the steering current continue at 110 miles per hour. As a matter of fact, we had an unconfirmed report in the south side of the storm of a wind at 130 knots. Look at the radar from Wilmington, North Carolina, the National Weather Service radar scanning the storm. Look at the spiral bands. Here's the first one. The second one as it comes around the storm, and this right here is the center, about 10 to 15 nautical miles wide. And again, the storm not really wobbling too much now as it was earlier today, moving off to the north-northeast at 8 miles per hour. I'll have the
tornadoes that may precede Diana as she creeps northward up the coast, and so people should prepare for that.
The storm as of 10 o'clock Eastern time this morning, and we'll have a new advisory hopefully in 45 minutes. 32.7 north, 78.4 west. The winds were at 120 miles per hour, actually in excess of 120 miles per hour. Storm moving now at a northward pace at 10 miles per hour, and its center right here moving northward. The spiral band swinging on shore. This was an incredible band that just moved on across the Wilmington area. And these are the bands, by the way, that will be creating those tornadoes as they bring all their energy and sweep on shore and just slam into the friction of the land mass here. That will trigger the tornado activity throughout much of the afternoon.
See a better radar picture of a hurricane than you are seeing right here. Once again, highest sustained winds are now 125 miles an hour. Before we get away, I feel compelled to read to you. The governor of North Carolina and local government officials have recommended evacuation of beaches and islands in Brunswick, New Hanover, and Pender counties and portions of the Outer Banks. In South Carolina, emergency management officials and the National Weather Service have recommended evacuation of islands and beaches of Horry and portions of Georgetown County.
And if you follow barometer readings, you know when you get down into the 28 area, that's really something. The hurricane is moving north at about 10 miles an hour, and with that calculation in mind, in the next 6 or 7 hours early this evening, it should hit somewhere between Myrtle Beach and Wilmington. Current radar shows heavy activity, of course, along the coast. Wilmington itself has heavy rain, and in our area, well, there's nothing. Really, there's some shower activity quite heavy up in the Buffalo area.
South-southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, or Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, right in that general area. You can actually see the little eye, and whenever you can do that on this type of a satellite picture, it's an incredibly well-formed storm. Winds have increased during the hour, up to 125 miles per hour at the present time. It's moving generally, and that's a little uncertain, north-northeast around 10 miles per hour.
Oh, Wes Caldwell. That's for the Jones family out there. All right. Look at this close-up picture we've got of Hurricane Diana. Here are the latest statistics on Diana. Peak winds are now 125 miles per hour. She's moving north-northeast at 10 miles an hour. Now, I would say Wilmington, North Carolina would be probably harder hit tonight than, say, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, because the storm, as I say, is moving north-northeast. How strong will the winds be along the immediate coast? Probably 80 to 100 miles an hour, although it's a little bit difficult to predict. Now, once the storm hits land, if it does, it will tend to break up. It could re-intensify out in the ocean in the middle of the week, but one thing that's favoring our vulnerability as far as Diana is concerned